Welcome Wanderers, Dylan the Conqueror here, bringing you a new, powerful Barbarian build that won't have you tilt-a-whirling around the map or bringing the hammer down. Instead, we're going to take to the skies and bring down the boot. That's right, the following is a Leapquake kick or perhaps Leapkick build. This build will keep pace with Whirlwind or Hammer the Ancients and is viable in the late game. With this build, we'll leap across the map and bring down a kick capable of hitting for well over the 5 million mark, while still clearing through trash packs with ease. I'm going to be taking you through the skills, talents, Paragon, gear, everything you need to know to get this build up and running. And I feel like there's even a few more adjustments that can be made to take this build to another level. So why don't we go ahead and dive into the skill tree and get you set up here first. We're going to put 4 points into Lunging Strike. I feel it's the best basic skill Barbarians have. It helps you cover ground, and it hits pretty quick when you pair it with Dual Wield. We're going to put in every skill that we use that can be paired with a weapon with Dual Wield, and you'll see why later on when we get to the gear. With Lunging Strike, we're going to also take the Battle Lunging Strike to get a little bit of extra bleed. That's going to help us push past the core wheel, because we take no points here in core skills, and we're going to move right into defensive. In defensive, we take Ground Stomp with Tactical Ground Stomp to generate some extra fury every time we use it. We're also going to take Rallying Cry with Strategic Rallying Cry to get Fortify and help trigger some of our glyphs. Lastly, in the defensive hub, we take Challenging Shout as a damage reduction, and we'll take Tactical Challenging Shout with that to help increase fury generation. Down here in our brawling skills, which is our main hub, this is where all of our skills that we kill everything that we kill are. We have Kick that we're going to max out 5 of 5, and we're going to take Power Kick. Power Kick is the way that we can kick for well over 1 million damage, all the way up into 5, 6, 7 million damage crits that I've seen hit so far. But you have to take Power Kick in order for that to work. We're also going to be putting in Booming Voice and Raid Leader in order to make both Rallying Cry and Challenging Shout last longer and heal us while they're active. Then we're going to take Leap, the bread and butter of the build. We're going to max this out. Maxing out these two skills doesn't just increase their damage, it also reduces their cooldown, which is important for the build. We're going to be taking Power Leap in order to generate 40 Fury every time we leap, which between that and Ground Stomp, we'll have plenty of Fury to hit for max level kicks. We're also going to take Aggressive Resistance to gain some damage reduction while berserking, and we're going to take Battle Fever so that every time we leap or kick hit an enemy, we will gain berserking for 2 seconds, which will pretty much put us in a state of permanent berserking. Down here in the Weapon Mastery skill, we're going to grab Hamstring for the bleed effect, and we're going to grab Pit Fighter as well as No Mercy in this upper hub. This will help increase damage against close enemies, and this will also increase our critical strike against immobilized, stunned, or slowed, which Hamstring will slow our enemies for us. And down here, we're going to take 1 point into Thick Skin, so we can put 3 points into Defensive Stance to gain more damage reduction while we're fortified, and Counter-Offensive in order to do 12% increased damage when we have Fortify over 50% of our maximum health. Down here in the Ultimate Skill Hub, we do not take an Ultimate in this build, and we do not take any weapon enhancement passives here. We will be putting 3 points into Tempered Fury to help increase our Rage Pool, which will be a big effect on the Power Kick, as well as on Magnum Opus. We'll get to that when we get to gear. For our key passive, we're going to be taking On Constrain, which will increase our berserking maximum duration by 5 seconds, so that 2 seconds will go up much higher, and will also increase the damage bonus from berserking by 25%, increasing our total damage. That is how I have the skill tree currently, and all the footage you see, that is the skill tree that I am running. I have moved and mixed and matched points, and it may not be the final build. Any updates, I will let you guys know if I find a better way to do this. Alright, we are going to go ahead and move on to the Paragon board. We are going to come up the right-hand side from the beginning, grabbing Brawn before we move on to our first glyph socket, which is going to be Exploit. Exploit is a major glyph here as it increases vulnerable damage, one of the best damage increases that Diablo 4 currently has. We're going to need Dexterity to fully activate this one, so grab it along the way, and move up off the left-hand side of the board to grab some more physical damage before we go up and off and grab Decimator. Decimator is our first board. Not that it really matters because we're not grabbing any legendary nodes along the way, so we're mostly looking at glyph socket placement as well as the rare and magic nodes around that glyph socket. For this first one, as we come up, we're going to place Marshal, which is a magic node increase, as well as a shout reduction, cooldown reduction every time we shout. We're going to go ahead and grab up these vulnerable damage nodes as well as vulnerable damage reduction nodes before we hook to the left, and then before we jump off the board, we're going to go up and grab these increases to vulnerable damage. Like I said, best damage stat in the game. Every build should be running it. As we move off of the board here, we're going to be moving into Blood Rage. Now, once again, we're positioning it in this fashion because we're not going for the legendary node, so we're just going to kind of make quick work of the glyph socket before we get off the board. We're going to come up right about this point to grab these dexterity nodes. That way we can activate Blood Feather, which is a 25 dex required to unlock 5% increased crit against bleeding enemies. Every enemy we hit will be bleeding, therefore this will pretty much always be active. We're going to go ahead and grab these increased damage to bleeding enemies and a couple of the damage reductions as we move up and off of this board. The next one that we're going to do is Warbringer. Now for Warbringer, we're going to hook left first and grab these Fury nodes, as maximum Fury will increase our total damage with the way that this build works. So then after grabbing that, we move over and we're going to place Ire. Ire is a berserking damage increase as well as a damage reduction while berserking. So we're going to pick up the strength that we need, and then we're going to move up to the north part of the board and grab these maximum Fury before we hop off and on to the Flawless Technique board. On the Flawless Technique board, we're going to be using a bonus to all magic nodes within range, so go ahead and feel free to pick some of these up and even a couple extra if you feel you need more damage reduction, as well as all of these increased critical strike chance with one-handed weapons. Every attack in our build that uses a weapon is going to be dual-wielding one-handed weapons, so all of these should be active for our damage, with the exception of Kick, because Kick does not use a weapon. Now as we move up, before we go up and off this board, we are going to pick up Havoc, as it is just a straight critical strike damage increase, as well as physical damage increase, so these help every ability in our kit, so we want to go ahead and grab them as we move up and onto the next board, which is Weapon Master. We are once again only going to hover in this right hand side, and this is where we're going to place Brawl. Brawl increases the physical damage and damage reduction modifiers of all Paragon nodes, as well as giving us 18% increased damage with brawling skills, which Kick and Leap are both brawling skills. So here we're going to grab these blue nodes here, as well as the raw power node, and then we're going to go ahead and move up and over and grab all of these to get extra physical damage and armor. Make sure you grab 25 willpower along the way to activate the brawl damage before you move up and off of the board. Our final board is going to be Carnage. And with Carnage, we're going to stay on the top side here to grab these willpower nodes, because we are going to be placing Undaunted. Undaunted increases Fortify damage, as well as gives us a damage reduction while fortified. And with our shouts, we will be fortified up most of the time. So go ahead and grab the willpower nodes that you need, as well as the damage reductions from close, and as well as berserking damage here, and that will pretty much round out the board. I always mess around my board and drop and move points around, trying different things. So feel free to play with this and see what works best for you. Even try some different glyphs. Let me know in the comments if you find something that you think works a little better. I'm always like to see changes and try them out myself. So I think that moves us on to gear, which will be our next section before we show some in-depth gameplay. So let's go ahead and get into that so we can see how you need to gear to maximize the Leapquake. Alright, so we're in the gear section. I'm going to go through all of the legendary aspects that we have on, as well as the weapon techniques. Hint, two-handed axe is the best one to have on all of the weapon attacks for the vulnerable damage. I've already spoke on vulnerable damage multiple times in this video. Should be self-explanatory at this point. So let's go ahead and jump in here at the helm. We're going to be running Numbing Wrath. This helps us generate Fortify anytime that our shouts are on cooldown. And we're going to be at max Fury and be able to generate this pretty easily and pretty consistently. For our chest, you want to run the Rage of Hargoth. This is a great unique chest for us, as all of our abilities, with the exception of our basic attack, are a cooldown skill. So this will allow us, with Lucky Hit, up to 40% chance to reduce the cooldown of non-ultimate skills by 1.5 seconds whenever you inflict a bleed. With the next one that we have going on here, the Berserking Ripping, this one allows us, while berserking, that all of our direct damage, all of ours, 30% of our direct damage is dealt as bleed damage over 5 seconds. So that, paired with this, work perfectly. And on top of that, this is the Lucky Hit. With Leap, I have roughly an 80% chance to Lucky Hit, then to trigger one of the Lucky Hit effects. So this one works out really well in the Leapquake build. On our pants, we're going to be running Disobedience for our defensive to help get that armor stack up. Most builds run this one, not a shocker here. On the boots, we're going to be running Perpetual Stomping as our legendary aspect. This gives our kick and ground stomp the ability to reset our leap. So anytime that we kind of fall out of sync with the leap, we're able to kind of reset ourselves to get us going again. On our two-hander, we're going to be using the Earthquake legendary aspect. This gives our ground stomp an Earthquake that deals damage. The damage is not the important part. It also gives you 30% increased damage while standing in that Earthquake. It's a pretty decent increase. You want to drop your ground stomp before you kick. It will help you just kick for the 5-6 millions. On our one-handers, Magnum Opus is our unique one-handed weapon that we want to run. This unique gives skills that use this weapon deal 0.3% increased damage per point of fury that you have. But you lose 2 fury every second. It's not even noticeable. I don't even realize I'm losing fury ever, because Leap generates 40 fury, ground stomp increases 20, and that's not counting any sort of increased resource generation you might have on gear. Now, this makes our Leap, ground stomp, and lunging strike all hit harder. Magnum Opus does not affect kick, because kick does not have a weapon assigned to it. But that is why you want to put dual wielding on all 3 of these other abilities. That way you can get the damage bonus from Magnum Opus. On our other hand, we're going to be using Edgemaster, as it is once again a more damage increase while at maximum fury, which the 2 of these work hand in hand. Massive increase. Following that, on our slashing two-hander, we're going to be placing the Brawler's legendary aspect, which means anytime an enemy is damaged by kick or charge, they explode if they are killed within 2 seconds, dealing 11,000 or a range of damage to surrounding enemies. When you leap in with full energy and your leap vulnerables makes the target vulnerable and you kick them and they die pretty much immediately, they're going to take out a bunch of their buddies with them from the explosion. Moving on to our jewelry, on our necklace, we're going to be running the Bull Kalthos. This gives us our leap, creates an earthquake, the Leapquake kick portion of it, the Leapquake portion of Leap Kick, that deals damage over time, as well as giving you an increased damage reduction while standing inside of Earthquake. Neck is one of the few places that can go where it also gets an increase, so it does more damage and more increased damage reduction. And as we're going to be leaping around non-stop, we're going to be in our Earthquake most of the time. The rings are the 2 hardest ones to get, or seem to be the rarest ones, but they are what really make this build work. The first one is Loop of the Giant Strider, or Giant Strider legendary aspect. This reduces the cooldown of Leap by 3 to 5 seconds per enemy hit, and has up to a maximum of 9 seconds. You want to get yourself a 5 on this. 5 is perfect. That means with 2 enemies you hit for the full 9 seconds, and you can get the cooldown of Leap under 9 seconds. Therefore, every leap that hits 2 enemies will allow you to leap forever. Moving on to the Bear Clan ring is the other one, which is when you kill an enemy while berserking, which is all of the time, you have a 40% chance to grant increased cooldown reduction to the brawling skills for 2 seconds. This will push you way down to about 3-4 seconds, and while this is active, you only need to hit 1 target with Leap in order to reset the Leap cooldown and keep leaping permanently. Now, for some skills that you want to make sure to pick up, the big ones are cooldown reduction and maximum fury on your helm, maximum fury on your rings, and cooldown reduction and plus to all brawling skills on your necklace. With those, that's how you get the cooldown way down. I currently have 6.5 second cooldown on kick and like an 8 second cooldown on leap. Every time I hit 2 targets, it resets and it allows me to pretty much jump forever. And anytime I do get a little out of sync, I can ground stomp or kick to reset the leap cooldown and get back into the swing. Your pants need to try to get +4 to kick and leap, because like I said, it doesn't just increase the damage of these abilities, it also reduces the cooldown, which just makes the build work smoother and smoother. The hope is that once we pick up a Harlequin Crest, we'll be able to get that cooldown low enough to permanently be under 5 seconds. If it is possible, it may not be. I've kind of crunched the numbers, it might be close. If it is able to go under 5 seconds, I would actually drop Lunging Strike in order to pick up Battle Cry for a damage increase for the overall build. So that's going to do it. That's the gear, the skills, the Paragon, everything you need to know, the ins and outs to make the Leapquake kick or Leap Kick build work. So now I want you boys to try it. Get out there, jump into the sky, bring down the boot, kick those enemies to death, and have a great time doing it. I'm going to leave you with some footage so you can see it in action. Don't forget to hit that follow, like, and subscribe. I'll be bringing more D4 content on a regular basis, especially as Season 1 approaches. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Bless you.
Not ready yet. Not ready yet.
You're a saint.